Namaste, Dandavat Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're also offering our full Dandavat Pranams to Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajagacharya, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada for providing us this wonderful commentary and translation of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we're also offering our prayers to Srimati Radharani based upon the guidance of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who told us that if we cannot understand Srimati Radharani within the 18,000 verses of Bhagavatam, then our studies have been for waste. Yadi seva vanchitasya ma yasya kripaya vayam labema sarvam prapnuma prayojanam damni Shri Bhagavat pade Krishna sambandhi sarvam cha yadi na jani mahe tutam ashtadashasu sahasreshu shlokanam Bhagavat oktishu Radharanimna vindamatada Nishphalam Bhagavat Adhyayanam Radhikaya Kripam Vina Vyartasyat Sarva Parishrama. If we are cheated out of serving that personality whose mercy awards us everything we need, including residence in the Lord's holy Dham, and all things connected to Krishna, and if we cannot understand or discover Radharani within the 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, then our study of Bhagavatam has been pointless. Without the mercy of Srimati Radharani, all our efforts are in vain. Okay, so we are continuing from Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order. Chapter 25, the descriptions of the characteristics of King Purañjana. Asit Purañjano nama Raja Rajan Brihatstrava Tasya Vigyata namasit Shakha Vigyata chestita. And this is text 10, by the way. Translation. My dear king, once in the past lived a king named Purañjana, who was celebrated for his great activities. He had a friend named Avigyata, the unknown one. No one could understand the activities of Avigyata. Purport. Every living entity is Purañjana. The word Param means within this body, within this form, and Jana means living entity. Thus, everyone is Purañjana. Every living entity is supposed to be the king of his body because the living entity is given full freedom to use his body as he likes. He usually engages his body for sense gratification because one who is in the bodily conception of life feels that the ultimate goal of life is to serve the senses. This is the process of karmakand. One who has inner knowledge, who does not know that he is actually the spirit soul living within the body, who is simply enamored by the dictation of the senses, is called a materialist. A materialistic person interested in sense gratification can be called a Purañjana. Because such a materialistic person utilizes his senses according to his whims, he may also be called a king. An irresponsible king takes the royal position to be his personal property and misuses his treasury for sense gratification. The word Brihatstrava is also significant. The word Trava means fame. The living entity is famous from ancient times, for as stated in Bhagavad Gita 2.20, Najayate mriyate va. The living entity is never born and never dies. Because he is eternal, his activities are eternal, although they are performed in different types of bodies. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. He does not die, even after the annihilation of the body. Thus, the living entity transmigrates from one body to another and performs various activities. In each body, the living entity performs so many acts. Sometimes he becomes a great hero, just like Hiranyakashipu and Kamsa, or, in the modern age, Napoleon or Hitler. The activities of such men are certainly very great, but as soon as their bodies are finished, everything else is finished. Then they remain in name only. Therefore, a living entity may be called Brihatstrava. He may have a great reputation for various types of activities. Nonetheless, he has a friend whom he does not know. Materialistic persons do not understand that God is present as the Supersoul, who is situated within the heart of every living entity. Although the Paramatma sits inside the Jivatma as a friend, the Jivatma or living entity does not know it. Consequently, he is described as Avigyata Shaka, meaning one who has an unknown friend. The word Avigyata Chestita is also significant because a living entity works hard under the direction of Paramatma and is carried away by the laws of nature. Nonetheless, he thinks himself independent of God and independent of the stringent laws of material nature. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 2.24, Ichedyo yam adyo yam akledyo sosya evacha Nitya sarvagata stanor achaloyam sanatana. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned or dried, nor dried. He is everlasting, all-pervading, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. The living entity is Sanatana, eternal, because he cannot be killed by any weapon, burnt into ashes by fire, soaked or moistened by water, nor dried up by air. He is considered to be immune to material reactions. Although he is changing bodies, he is not affected by the material conditions. He is placed under the material conditions, and he acts according to the directions of his friend, the Supersoul. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Sarvasya chaham hrishani vishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Thus the Lord as Paramatma is situated in everyone's heart, and he gives directions to the living entities to act in whatever way the living entity desires. In this life and in his previous lives, the living entity does not know that the Lord is giving him a chance to fulfill all kinds of desires. No one can fulfill any desire without the sanction of the Lord. All the facilities given by the Lord are unknown to the conditioned soul. Text 11. Sonve samana sharanam babrema pridhivim prabhu nanurupam yadha vindad abhutsa vimana iva. King Purañjana began to search for a suitable place to live, and thus he traveled all over the world. Even after a great deal of traveling, he could not find a place just to his liking. Finally, he became morose and disappointed. Purport. The travelings of Purañjana are similar to the travelings of the modern hippies. Generally, hippies are sons of great fathers and great families. It is not that they are always poor, but some way or another, they abandon the shelter of their rich fathers and travel all over the world. As stated in this verse, the living entity wants to become a Prabhu, or master. The word Prabhu means master, but actually the living entity is not a master. He is the eternal servant of God. When the living entity abandons the shelter of God, or Krishna, and tries to become a Prabhu independently, he travels all over the creation. There are 8,400,000 species of life, and millions and trillions of planets within the creation. The living entity wanders throughout these various types of bodies and throughout different planets. And thus he is like King Purañjana, who traveled all over the world looking for a suitable place to live. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung Karma Kan Jnana Kan Kevala Vishera Bandha. The path of karma kand, or fruit of activities, the path of jnana kand, or speculation, are just like strong pots of poison. Amrita baliye ye bakai, nana yoni sada fire. A person who mistakes this poison to be nectar and drinks it travels in different species of life. Kandharya bhakshana kare. And according to his body, he eats all types of abominable things. For instance, when the living entity is in the body of a hog, he eats stool. When the living entity is in the body of a crow, he eats all kinds of refuse, even pus and mucus, and enjoys it. Thus, Narottam Das Thakur points out that the living entity travels in different types of bodies and eats all kinds of abominable things. When he does not become ultimately happy, he becomes morose or takes to the ways of hippies. Thus, in this verse it is said, na anur rupam, that the king could never find a place suitable for his purposes. This is because in any form of life and on any planet in the material world, a living entity cannot be happy because everything in the material world is unsuitable for the spirit soul. As stated in this verse, the living entity independently wants to become a Prabhu, but as soon as he gives up this idea and becomes a servant of God, Krishna, his happiness immediately begins. Therefore, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Miche mayara basi ache bese, kacha habu dububai. My dear living entity, why are you being carried away by the waves of Maya? As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.61, Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam hridedeshi arjunatistati, brahmyan sarva bhutani yantra rudrani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. The living entity is carried in the machine of the body through so many species of life on so many planets. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur asks the living entity why he is being carried away in all these bodily machines to be placed in so many different circumstances. He advises that one surmount the waves of Maya by surrendering unto Krishna. Jiva Krishna Dasa, E Vishvasa, Karle Ta Aradukanai. As soon as we confront Krishna, Krishna advises, Sarvadharman Purityaga Mamekam Sharanam Raja, Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshasyami Masucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Thus, we are immediately relieved from traveling from one body to another and from one planet to another. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 19.151. If while traveling, a living entity becomes fortunate enough to become blessed by the association of devotees and to come to Krishna consciousness, his real life actually begins. This Krishna consciousness movement is giving all wandering living entities a chance to take to the shelter of Krishna and thus become happy. In this verse, the words Vimana Eva are very significant. In this material world, even the great King of Heaven is also full of anxiety. If even Lord Brahma is full of anxiety, what of these ordinary living entities who are working within this planet? Bhagavad Gita 8.16 confirms, Abrahma bhuvanaloka punar avartinarjuna. From the higher planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. In the material world, the living entity is never satisfied, even in the position of Brahma, or in the position of Indra or Chandra. One is full of anxiety simply because he has accepted this material world as a place of happiness. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 12 on Wednesday. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees, Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Nishringapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Giri Govardhan, Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham Kund, Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi, Bhakti Devi, Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Jai Princeton Bhakti Vedanta Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai, Nitai Gora Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol, Hare Krishna, Jai Srimati Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai, Hare Krishna,
श्रीपाद कृष्ण केशव प्रभु जी की जय।
Jai Gurudev, Dandavad Didi.